Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
All right, so that dreaded check engine light is on. You plugged in your scanner and it's spitting out one code, P0181. And now you're wondering, what on earth does that mean? Well, you've come to the right place. We're gonna break it all down. So you're staring at this code and you've got questions. What is your car actually trying to tell you? How serious is it? And what's the game plan to get it fixed?
In this explainer, we're going to translate all that technical jargon, pinpoint the most likely culprits behind P0181, and lay out a clear plan of action so you know exactly what to do next.
But listen, before we dive into the technical nitty-gritty, let's tackle the biggest question on your mind right now. Is it safe to keep driving your car with this code?
Okay, so here's the deal. Can you get to work tomorrow? Yeah, probably. Short-term driving is usually okay. But, and this is a big but, you really don't want to ignore it. You're likely going to notice some issues, like the car being tough to start, especially when it's cold. You'll definitely see your fuel economy take a hit, which costs you money. It could even lead to some rough idling or stalling at a stoplight. And if you let it go for too long, you're looking at increased wear and tear on your engine. So, the bottom line is, get it checked out as soon as you can.
All right, now that we've established it's important to fix, let's figure out what this code is actually telling us. The real clue is hidden in those two words, range and performance.
The official name is Fuel Temperature Sensor A Circuit Range/Performance. Now, the most important word there isn't sensor or fuel. It's implausible. See, this code doesn't mean the sensor is completely dead. Not at all. It means your car's brain, the ECM, is getting data from the sensor. But that data just doesn't make any sense. The sensor is talking, but its story sounds really suspicious.
To really get this, think of your car's computer as a detective working a case. An electrical fault code, like a P0183, is like a witness who won't answer the phone. There's just no signal, an open circuit. But our code, P0181, that's different. With P0181, the witness is on the phone, they're talking, but their story is all over the place. It just doesn't add up with the other evidence. The data is there, but it's totally unreliable. So this brings up a really good question, right? How does the computer know the story is unreliable? How does it play detective? Well, it's pretty smart. It doesn't just listen to one witness. It cross-references all the evidence it has. The computer runs what we call rationality checks. It's constantly comparing the fuel temperature sensor's story to what other sensors are saying. For instance, its logic is simple. If the engine coolant is at a toasty 190 degrees, there's no way the fuel can be at a freezing -40. That's a failed story. Or if the air coming into the engine is 80 degrees, the fuel can't be boiling at 250. The computer even knows that fuel can't just magically jump 100 degrees in 2 seconds. When these stories clash, that's when it throws up the P0181 flag. Okay, so our detective ECM has flagged the fuel temp sensor as an unreliable witness. The question is, why? Who are the usual suspects behind this problem? Let's line them up. Now, statistically speaking, the sensor itself is the #1 offender, accounting for about 60% of cases. But, and this is why you don't just guess, it's not always the sensor. Coming in second, you've got issues with the wiring or the connector itself. Then you have other fuel system problems, and finally, in rare cases, the computer itself could be the issue.
So, let's break that down a little. The faulty sensor is the most common cause, sure. The little guy just wears out over time. But before you buy a new one, check for the simple stuff. You could have corroded pins on the connector, a wire that's been chewed by a mouse, or a bad ground. Heck, even really contaminated fuel or just extreme cold weather can sometimes be enough to trigger this code. And yeah, we have to mention it. It's rare, but the ECM can malfunction.
So, we know the what and we know the why. Now for the most important part, the how. Let's walk through a solid diagnostic game plan to hunt down the real culprit in your car. Here's your roadmap. And trust me, you always start with step 1, a simple visual inspection. Look at it. Is the connector even plugged in all the way? Are the wires frayed? After that, grab your scan tool and become the detective. Pull up the live data. Does that fuel temp rating look crazy compared to the coolant and air temps? If it still looks fishy, it's time to get out the multimeter. You'll test the sensor's resistance directly, and then you'll test the circuit to make sure the computer is sending it the right voltage to begin with.
And really, it all comes back to this one idea. This P0181 code is subtle. It's not a screaming, "I'm broken" code. It's the ECM basically saying, look, I've got a connection, I can hear the sensor just fine, but the story it's telling me just doesn't make any logical sense based on everything else I know to be true.
And that brings us to the single most important piece of advice I can give you. Do not just throw a new sensor at it and hope for the best. I know it's tempting, especially since the sensor is the most likely cause, but guessing is a fantastic way to waste your time and your money. Verify the problem before you buy the part.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question to think about. A P0181 code is often a pretty simple fix, but it's a great reminder of how smart and interconnected our cars really are. So is this code just telling you about one bad sensor? Or is it maybe the first clue, the first thread to pull that can unravel a bigger issue with your wiring or even your fuel system? The diagnosis is what will tell the true story.